If you get your compensation structure wrong, you'll bleed top talent, or alternatively, you'll overpay the mediocre talent on your team. Now, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how to pay your sales reps, whether that's a setter or a closer or an MDR, and I'm going to be using real math behind 100 to 200K plus performers. No fluff, no guesswork, just real tangible math that you can use today in your business to make sure that you're not overpaying performers or underpaying performers as well. Now, if you stick with me through the end, I'll show you exactly one simple compensation shift that you can use today to collect more cash faster without changing your offer or your ad spend. Now, we have to first start with the core rule. You have to be paying for outcomes, cash collected, not effort. That is one thing that I see so many people get wrong in their compensation structure, is that they reward and incentivize bad behavior. Here at Sales Match, we believe in placing commission-only performance-based compensation structures within your business for one reason. We believe that closers and setters should be commission-based. Why? Because you eat what you kill. That breeds a culture for performance, and it breeds a culture where everybody is, incentivized to do as best as they can, and specifically you can attract top talent, because one thing is sure, if you get your compensation structure wrong, you are going to chase away top talent before they are even in your organization. Now, closers and setters should only earn on cash collected, not promises, not payment plans. Why? Because this keeps your reps hungry, and it keeps your cash flow healthy and aligns everyone to the same goal, which is revenue in the bank. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story here, and I'm sure you have thought about this before. I believe every entrepreneur gets there at one point in time once they hit really good success. Now, one story that I've had in my previous business where we hit over 8 figures is, I had a partner in that business, and we'd always be going back and forth. Are we overpaying our reps, right? And that's something that I'm sure you've thought of before. And here's the thing, you want to structure your compensation structure or your comp plan from the beginning, from the get-go, where you are okay with if a top performer comes in and he smashes through the KPIs or the OTE, right? Because you have uncapped commission. You have to be okay with it where closers are earning upwards of, in my example, our OTE for one of our closers was about $250,000. Well, guess what? We had a new closer come in, ramped him up to speed, and he was on track to do 360K on track earnings, right? And we always had this debate going back and forth, well, shit, are we paying him too much? Right? Well, guess what? Once you have a closer that is performing that well, there is no better way to have them leave that organization than to basically dumb down or bring down the comp structure or how much you pay them. They will run for the hills, right? Because at the end of the day, you cannot be dangling a carrot in front of a closer, and once he does what you want him to do, say, oh, no, I'm taking that specific carrot away from you, right? Or that reward away from you. This is why it's so important to get your comp structure right from the get-go, so that, when you bring in a closer and they're performing and they get better and better and better and they outperform everybody else, you do not get to a situation where you're thinking, well, shit, am I paying this guy too much, right? That is why it's so hyperly important that you set your comp structure right from the beginning to, number one, attract top talent, right? And we'll talk about uncapped earnings here in a little bit. And secondly, you have to be okay that if a top earner comes in and absolutely crushes it, that specific person, you have to feel good about paying them that much money, right? Because guess what? If they're doing that well, they're earning you a shit ton of money along the way as well. So that's very important that you get that right, because I was in that situation before, right? Where I thought, okay, well, the comp plan or the OTE is here at 250. Nobody's really going to smash through that. And once I got and I saw what good talent really looks like by training them and ramping them up to speed, and specifically knowing where to find them, that person came in and smashed through the OTE, and I almost got to a point where I was like, well, this guy is just pretty much just taking orders. You know, although he's brought down the sales cycle by a ton, by a couple of weeks, I think our sales cycle was 35 to 40 days. He came in and made the sales cycle on his specific closes at 14 days, which means he could close more deals more often, and that's why his OTE jumped from 250K, and he had the potential to make 360K at one point, right? Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is so that you do not go through this. And in my specific case, our OTE or our comp structure was not in place to, number one, be able to accommodate, top closers. And I say that in the reverse sense versus, we did have our comp structure to attract that talent, but we weren't really expecting anybody to come in and to really exceed the OTE or exceed the KPIs, because one thing we did not keep in mind is the sales cycle. Now, please remember, guys, sales cycle is, I'm gonna make a whole nother video on this, but your sales cycle is even more important than your closing percentage. A lot of people get that wrong. They're like, what's your closing percentage? What's the closing percentage? One thing that I do not see a lot of, entrepreneurs talking about is your sales cycle, right? And we can break down the math, and I'm gonna do this in a whole nother video because this is gonna take another 30 minutes if I go down this tangent here. But essentially what you need to note here is that your sales cycle is more important than your closing rate. And I'm gonna draw out the math, and like I said in another video, but to give you an overlay example, somebody that has a 20% close rate, right, will smash somebody that has a 30% close rate over a period of a year if the person with a 20% close rate has a 2-week sales cycle versus the person that has a 30% close rate, but that person that has the 30% close rate actually has a 4-week sales cycle. And why might that be? Well, it comes down to how many people they can talk to in a yearly period, right? The more volume they can do, the better. But again, this comes into, and again, I'll talk to this in another video, where you'll get the closures that will come in and drop the sales cycle, but their methodology or their mindset is that I'm just gonna spin through these leads, right? And that's one thing you have to watch as well, because you don't want that closing rate to drop too much, right? If they can cut your sales cycle in half, great. But if they cut their closing rate in half as well, it basically cancels out more or less. I'll show you the math in another video. But the point that I'm trying to make here is sales cycles is even more important than your closing rate. So let me get back to what I wanted to talk here, because I'm going off tangent, but essentially, let's start with the setters, right? One thing you have to know is that setters are not appointment robots, right? And I see so many people go wrong with setters in this day and age, where they want to go, oh, let's use this AI setter, or let's use these cheap offshore setters, right? At the end of the day, they are not robots, right? And your sales cycle starts with your setters. The image, the reputation that your business carries starts with your setters. That is so important, that you hire good onshore setters that are, talking in the same accents, that are calling potentially from a local number, right? Onshore setters. They're always going to be, these AI setters. Think about it, guys. There's this huge wave with bullshit AI setters where people will come in and say to you, oh yeah, we can do more volume. More volume is not always better, guys. And I wholeheartedly will stand by this. You need to be able to maximize the leads and the conversions that you have with your current leads, because eventually you're going to hit your TAM, your total accessible market. And guess what? That's when ad fatigue kicks in. That's when your rising Facebook and YouTube ad costs go up, and ultimately your customer acquisition costs will rise. Why? Because your closers aren't giving a shit about your current leads that you have, right? And if you're starting your sales cycle with, AI appointment setters, the throughput and the conversions, just ask yourself this, is going to be lower compared to a real person having a real conversation with an American accent that is onshore, right? I cannot explain to you the conversions that you will see between the two, right? Now, I haven't specifically run the math on the two. I've just talked to a lot of people, and I've listened to the conversions that some AI setters do have. And trust me, humanization is always going to win, right? And we're going through this wave where a lot of people you know, and a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to, you know, go this AI route because AI is always better. Trust me, guys, once everybody in the sales cycle starts using AI, which it seems like it's going that way, specifically with appointment setters as well, your prospects are going to hear that. They're going to appreciate eventually talking to a real person. And at the end of the day, who likes talking to a robot? Nobody, right? So please remember that your setters are not appointment robots, okay? They are pipeline optimizers, excuse me, and this is exactly where your sales cycle starts and the reputation of your business. And you need to start off with your clientele or your potential prospects on the right foot. And starting them off by talking to some robot where they're going to recognize it's AI, it's not a good look, guys. So again, if you structure it right, and which I'm going to show you here how to structure it right, appointment setters, or MDRs, marketing development representatives, can earn and should earn anywhere from about $50,000 to $75,000. Okay, so let's hop right into the iPad real quick and start with some basic math here so that I can show you exactly how to do this math starting backwards. So let's hop right into the iPad. All right, so starting off with setters. Again, excuse my handwriting here, but let's work the math backwards. You have to decide, right? What type of appointment setter do you want? What is the quality you want? If you're gonna have your OTE or your on-track earnings at, you know, 40 to, let's just say 35 to 40,000, guess what? You're not gonna be able to attract top talent. And to be honest, we're not going to be able to attract top talent for you as well. You have to ensure that your OTE is in a bracket where you can attract that top talent. And what is that bracket? Well, your OTE specifically for setters, that should be around $50,000 to $75,000 a year. Okay? So that should be your OTE for appointment setters, okay? So if we know that our OTE should be anywhere in the range from $50,000 to $75,000 a year, that's when we have to start working backwards, okay? So what is that a month? So on a month, if we take, you know, let's just work with, let's go easy math here. Let's go 70,000 a year just to make this easy over here on us. And my math will math eventually. So let's start off with $70,000 a year. So 70K a year is roughly plus, oh, this is terrible. Excuse me, guys. You guys are gonna have to get used to my handwriting here. Okay, so on a monthly basis, this is plus minus, let's see here, $70,000 a year is probably around $5,800 a month, or it is $5,800 a month because I got the math written down here. Okay, so essentially, if we want to be earning, you know, $70,000 a year, that's $58,000 or $5,800 a month for our setters, right? Now, all you have to do is work backwards here, okay? The average setter, a commission-based setter, right? A good average here is between 3% and 5% of your actual comp, right? Or the revenue collected. So if they collect, you know, if a setter sets a deal that closes for $100,000, hypothetically, the setter should be earning $3,000 to $5,000 on that specific deal, okay? Now, again, this is the range that you need to work in. So now you just need to reverse engineer the math with your specific offer. So if you know setters are more or less in the 3 to 5% range, and if you want a really good setter, aim upwards of an OTE structure of $70,000 a year. Now, when you know that math, work backwards and reverse engineer this. It's actually super, super simple and super easy, right? Because now we can go, okay, well, let's just say we want to pay, well, let's start with, you know, you have a $5,000 offer, okay? So let me move this up a little bit. All right, your offer over here is $5,000. Okay, so now if we know your offer is $5,000, you know, well, if you pay 5%, right? Okay, that is 5% of 5,000 is $250 a deal. Okay, so now if you know your offer is, you know, 5K over here, and you are paying 5% commissions per closed deal, right? Again, per closed deal, that's $250 per deal. okay? So now we gotta ask ourselves, how many deals a month should our setters be earning, right? If we are at $250 a deal, okay? Well, specifically to get to, you know, a range where they're earning that $5,800 a month, I'm just confirming the math here, they need to be earning they need to be getting 23 closed deals. Okay, so essentially what the math here is $250 per closed deal times 23 deals, right? Will give us a comp structure, okay, will give us a total comp of $5,750 a month. Okay, so that will get us upwards of that $70,000, very close to that $70,000 a year, is because specifically we just reversed engineered the math. Okay, so now the question you need to be asking yourself is, okay, well, are we getting 23 closed deals, or is that even possible to get 23 closed deals a month? Okay, if it is, cool, you got your answer here, right? Now, specifically, the way I would reverse engineer this is start with how many deals you have, right? You know you got to get to $70,000 a year, okay? How many deals are you currently doing? What is your current setters doing specifically to get to that specific offer or OTE, right? And all you have to do is reverse engineer it. 70,000, you know setters should be paid more or less between 3 and 5%, okay? Well, if the OTE needs to be 70 or 70 grand a year to attract top talent, reverse engineer the math, guys. It's super, super easy, okay? Because again, $5,750 a month is gonna equate to around $69,000 a year. Okay, and that's how you're going to be able to attract top talent. Now, you know, a question here that I get a lot is, well, Craig, you know, what if, you know, we can only physically close, let's just say, you know, 15 deals a month, okay? Okay, well, at 15 deals a month, let me just grab the calculator here. If we're getting if we're paying $250 a specific deal, right? That's going to be equate to $3,750 a month, okay? And we know we need to be getting around $5,750, okay? So now how do we attract top talent, you know, when we're already paying 5% of the deal, right? But we can only get 15 deals a month, right? So if we're only getting 15 deals a month, right, and we're paying 5%, that is only $3,750 a month, or $45K a year. Okay, you can still get decent talent for this, but you're not going to get the top earners or the top 1% guys, right? So it's super important that we break this down even further, and the way we do this is by adding in bonuses, okay? So you want to incentivize people for collecting cash, okay? That is the word that we need to be using here is cash collected. I only pay on cash collected. I've had tons of arguments with closers about this, and you'll get top earners that will come and try and push you around in your organization, which you should always not allow, okay? Your comp structure is the way it is, take it or leave it, okay? I've had closers come in and, you know, tell me, oh, your comp structure sucks. Well, guess what? Go find a better comp structure then, you know? At the end of the day, this is how you set it, and if you want to attract top talent and you know the marketplace itself, right, in terms of, you know, setters and closers, how much you should pay top closers, which this is exactly what we do here at Sales Match. We go find that top talent so you don't have to. And if you want, you know, top 1% closers or setters, please go in the link in the bio here or below this video and schedule a consultation call with us, and let's have, you know, these conversations to see how we can plug the best top 1% closers and setters into your organization. But enough of that. So going back to the math here, if you know, okay, well, you know, with the current deals at, you know, 15 deals a month, well, guess what? You either have two options here. If you want top talent, you have to find a way to pay them more, okay? So either we got to increase these 15 deals a month, right? By getting more qualified lead flow coming in so that the setters can actually set more deals, okay? So that's one thing that's probably a bottleneck you should work on there is, okay, how do we get more deals? How do we get more volume, okay? Because you're not going to attract the best people at 45,000. Now, this is option number one, right? Is increase lead flow, okay? So there's more people for the setters to talk with. The second option here, the least favorable option, is you need to structure incentivized bonuses, okay? So the way we're gonna do this is I generally do this on cash collected, okay? So again, the way we can do this, and this is a lot on the closers side because, you know, I generally have the closers collect the cash, not the setters itself, so it's kind of off there. But again, the closers should be working hand on hand with setters. My rule of thumb is one setter, one closer. Sometimes even you can push it to two setters and one closers. It depends on your offer, your pricing, and your sales cycle and your sales structure, okay? But specifically, the way I like to incentivize it is on cash collected. So for an example here, we can pay an extra if they get, you know, if our offer is $5,000 and we're doing 15 deals a month, right? That is, let's just work out what the comp there would be, right? So if we're doing 15 deals a month times, you know, a 5K offer, that equals, that equals to $75,000 in cash collected. Okay, so we know that they are already going to be collecting 75K a month. Okay, so the way we can structure this again to earn top talent, again, I do not like incentivizing normal activity and what they should be doing. So option number one over here is always going to be your best to increase lead flow, to increase the throughput of, you know, your entire team. But we can basically say this, that okay, if they do hit $75,000, we're going to pay out an extra $1,500 bonus, okay? So if we do hit 75K, you're gonna get a $1,500 bonus, okay? And this will take our total up to, if 15 deals a month over here equals $3750 a month. So $3750 a month plus 1,500 will set us at $52.50 a month, okay? Which again, if we do that on a yearly basis, it's gonna get us to $63,000 a year, which is right where you need to be. But again, I do not like the structure specifically. This is just showing you how if you do want the top talent and you do not have the lead flow, right? This is how you can incentivize them. Again, bottleneck number one is if you're only closing 15 deals a month and you shouldn't really be attracting top talent at this point, because you should be working on getting your lead flow and increasing your throughput of your lead flow so that you can afford to pay top talent. Okay, that is so important, and it's so overlooked, because at the end of the day, you know, you need setters to be financially motivated to book higher quality candidates, reduce no-shows, and chase full payments instead of monthly payment plans. Okay, that is so important, guys. Like, the comp structure here, I cannot explain the importance of this, right? Because if you get this wrong, you're going to be overpaying mediocre or incentivizing mediocre performance, right? Number one, or you're going to be overpaying for top talent, right? Which it annoys you as an entrepreneur. I trust you. If you haven't been there yet and you haven't crushed it, right? And you haven't paid somebody, you know, $30,000, $40,000 a month in commissions, I promise you at some point you're gonna have some sort of emotion on it. And a word of advice here, always look at it as a great thing, right? If you're paying somebody a lot of money, that means they're making you a lot of money, and they should be making you a lot of money. Otherwise, your comp structure is way out of it. Now, let's move on to closers here, a little bit more of a juicier topic. But closers specifically, again, it's gonna sit anywhere. It depends heavily on your price, okay? How many deals you're getting, how much is your offer, but essentially you want to be paying your closers anywhere from 8% to 15%. Oops, okay. Wow, didn't know that was gonna happen there. Let's erase that. All right, so the closers, you want to pay anywhere from 8% to 15%, okay, of the revenue collected. Okay, remember, top 1% closers, they're not gonna work from a salary. They do not want caps. Okay, they want upside. They want, you know, uncapped commissions. Okay, so what does that look like in terms of, you know, OTE for closers? So for top 1% closers, your OTE should be anywhere in this range. 100 and, geez, let me redo that. Okay, so your OTE over here for top 1% closers should be anywhere in the range of 150K to about 200,000 a year, okay? This is the range where you're gonna attract top talent. Is that 150 to $200,000 a year, okay? And that equates to roughly around, let me see here guys, let's make this a little bit thicker. This equates to more or less around 12,500 to 16,700 a month. Okay, so now if you know you need to pay that to attract top talent, guess what we're doing? We're working the math backwards and we're going backwards again, okay? So we can go, you need this math, right? But let's just say your closer is closing at a, let's move this on, at a 25%, or your top guy has a 25% close rate. Okay, so if we know our top closer, right, is closing at a 25% close rate on live calls, and if we go use the same math again, your offer is 5K, what do? We work backwards, okay? So to hit, you know, let's just use 150K here, to hit $150,000, we have to work the works backwards, right? So $150,000 a year, right, is about, you know, again, it's 12,500 a month. My handwriting will get better, I promise, eventually with time here. But your OTE, again, if you're doing 150K a year, that's $12,500 a month, okay? Now, again, if you want to work backwards here, right? This is going to equate to get to, you know, if we're paying, let's just say, you know, 15% here, okay? Just on the top line here. So 15% per deal. So 15% of 5K. Oops. Okay, 15% of 5K equals, just want to get this 100% correct here on the math, is $750 a deal, okay? So if we're paying $750 a deal, all we're doing is taking this 12,500 divided by 750. How many deals do we need to get? Okay, so 12,500 divided by 750 is going to give us about 16.6 deals. So we need about 17 deals, okay, per month to hit that. Now ask yourself, are you hitting 17 deals a month? Is your current closers hitting 17 deals a month? Because if they are not, right, guess what? You need to increase the throughput of your closers and raise the closing percentage through training specifically, okay? So again, this is super, super important that we just work backwards, okay? So we know closers, okay? Closers need to be paid anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 a year. The average commission on cash collected, again, this varies very differently according to your offer. Should be anywhere from 8 to 15%, okay, of the cash collected. Now, if you know, okay, to get a closer, I need to earn $150,000 a year, okay, or I need to be paying $150,000 a year to get a top closer, work backwards. What's the closing percentage? How many deals is the top closer getting? And basically structure it backwards from there. It's not rocket science. It's super, super, super easy, right? Seriously, not rocket science at all, guys. But at the end of the day, you just have to work backwards here, right? And just do the math. It's all math based. That's all it is, guys. It's just working out the math and working backwards, right? Because again, if you think about that, right, which if they had a closing percentage of 25%, right, again, that's about 68 calls, right? 68 calls a month. Okay, to get to the comp structure we just talked about, right? Assuming a 25% close rate, right? Or close percentage. Okay, so if 68 live calls a month, right? And we had a 25%, you know, close rate, that's about 3 to 4, you know, qualified calls a day. Very, very doable for a top rep. That should be the bare bone minimums, is 3 to 4 calls a day. Okay, you can even push. The point of diminishing returns with closers that I saw, again, it depends how long your calls are, but for me the diminishing returns is after 7 to 8 calls. Okay, that is really pushing it for closers, because at the end of the day you do not want to tire them out, you do not want to let them get in a rut, right? So it's so important that we give them just enough calls so that they can be super efficient, but not more than that where they become inefficient or they get tired or they just kind of rush into the calls because they're tired of the day and so on and so forth. At that point in time, you need to stack another closer in there. Okay, so again, this is the simple math. Okay, so again, to recap here, setters, you should be paying anywhere from 3 to 5% of cash collected. Closers, you should be paying anywhere from 8 to 15% of cash collected. Okay, and again, when closers push back on this, right, you need to have the math and you need to have this talk in the onboarding, or you need to have this conversation in the onboarding stage with them, right? And specifically go over the numbers, how they can hit the OTE, how they can get to $150,000 a year. There's nothing more motivating when you show somebody the path and a clear path to get to where they need to be or get to where they want to be. Right? Reverse engineer the math in front of them. To get to 150K a month, you need to be at a 25% close rate, taking 4 calls a day. Anything over that, you can be earning upwards of $200,000 if you take 6 calls a day and work out the math in front of them. That will absolutely motivate them like there's no tomorrow. Okay? Because again, cash keeps everybody focused on results. Okay, not fake revenue or broken plans. It pushes closers to collect more upfront and get your team aligned, right? Because at the end of the day, you are gonna. I've had somebody tell me, "Oh yeah, it sucks. We're only getting paid in 6 months when we collect all the cash because the sales cycle. Not 6 months, 60 days." Okay. If it sucks so much to get your money from a deal 60 days from now, guess what you have to do? Turn your sales cycle into 30 days. It's that simple, right? Big deal. If you can just cut your sales cycle from 60 days to 30 days, you're going to be earning so much more. Why? Because you're going to be earning more often and you can take more calls. Okay, so it's super important. Okay, and trust me, guys, you guys are going to deal with this if you haven't already. Top salespeople are egotistical. You just have to deal with it and you have to be upfront and honest about it. Okay, now let me tell you what not to do, okay? Here's where most founders go wrong. They start with what they think sounds fair instead of working the math backwards, okay? So some examples of that I've seen in comp structures that is absolutely horrendous and just breeds inefficiency is paying setters per show. Okay, now they're going to do everything to get that person just to show up, just to get them on a call. Maybe they're not qualifying, right? Because if you're incentivizing them per show, they're going to push everybody they can on there, regardless if they are qualified or not. A big no-no, okay? And another thing that I see here that a lot of founders get wrong is that they, give full commission for payment plans that eventually sometimes is going to default. Only pay on cash collected. Trust me on this, guys. Because again, if you have a payment plan, you close a deal, or your closer closes a deal for $100,000. Okay, that's paid over 10 months, so 10K every single month. But you're paying your closer a 10% commission upfront, $10,000 right there and then. Why are they incentivized to continue following up to get those payment plan or to get the rest of the comp? And in addition to that, if you pay them on cash collected, guess what? They're going to be incentivized to crimp down the time that they get that cash, right? And they're going to stay with you longer because they know, oh, they have a pipeline of deals that's still going to be paying out. Why would they leave your organization right now, right? Super important for employee churn and employee retention. Now, again, another thing that I see that closers do wrong or founders do wrong here is offering a salary and commission for average closers. Just have it be commission-based, please. You're gonna attract top talent that way. Top talent wants uncapped commissions. They do not wanna be capped, okay? Now, another mistake that I see is paying based on revenue promised versus collected, right? And what I mean by that is basically just pay them on cash collected, right? Do not pay them on, future money that's going to be coming in, because at the end of the day, you don't know if that money is going to be coming in, and you don't want to pay people for a job that is not complete, right? So again, you might be sitting there and wondering, well, why does this comp structure works, right? But at the end of the day, if you want A players, I mean the top 1% closers and setters, you need to treat your comp structure like recruiting bait. When we have calls and onboarding calls with our clients where we go out and go out to the marketplace and go represent this company or our client that we're working for, when we go and recruit top players for them, we have to put the whole offer on a pedestal, because guess what? Top 1% setters and closers, they know their value, okay? They want to work for the top companies. So it is our job to work with clients just like yourself, where we have our onboarding call, we talk about your OTE structure, we talk about culture fit, personality fit, and exactly what you're looking for, and we're gonna go out to the marketplace and find the right person for you. We're gonna interview them, we're gonna train them, we're gonna certify them, and ultimately we're gonna deliver the top cream of the crop picks to you so you can make the final 3 interviews and you pick the top 2 closers or setters that's going to work with your organization, and you employ them after that. Okay, now the reason I'm saying this is because we need to work together to find your top, or the recruiting bait, which is your OTE. How much can your top closer really earn? And if they crush it and hit out the park, how much more can they earn, right? Now again, I'll tell you right now that most great closers will not touch your offer unless you have a curated lead flow, daily call volume coming in, and it's not up, down, up, down, up, down, okay? Your compensation structure needs to be uncapped, okay? And you need to offer realistic on-track earnings that matches the market, okay? You don't want to put on-track earnings of 400,000 but not show a route to get there. That's also a big no-no. You have to show a route that you can get there, and you need to talk to your employees about that and show them exactly how they can get there so that you can, motivate them to get there, okay? Now, again, you're probably sitting there and wondering, what do we do specifically and how does this tie into your specific organization? Well, here at Sales Match, we basically help you build comp plans before we place anybody. We'll also show you the math behind every single OTE, right? So we can have a conversation. If you do not have a current comp structure, we can work one out for you, okay? We are also going to go out to the marketplace and vet these reps to make sure they're ready for commission-only payments, right? And then ultimately, we're just going to plug those reps into your business, right? So you can win on your terms, because comp structures should motivate. They should not mangle and be confusing. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, if you are sitting there and you're looking for, elite setters or closers to be plugged into your organization, but you don't know where to find them, that's exactly what we do here at Sales Match. So if you're interested in having us find salespeople on your behalf, click the link below, book a free consultation call. Let's see how we can work together, and we'll take it from there.